Hello everyone, this is Dr. Kyles. The purpose of this video is to share with you why I follow the ancient Kemetic people, the Kemetic ancestors. I follow all of the African ancestors, culturally, religiously, spiritually, but there is something peculiar about the Kemetic ancestors, and I'm going to explain why I think it's most important that we delve into their world. The first thing I do is I'll explain how I became aware of this. Now, growing up, doesn't matter what country you're in, you will see countless references to ancient Egypt, or Kemet, as they called it themselves. And you like, for example, Michael Jackson's "Remember the Time" video, all of the movies about Cleopatra, the depiction of Egyptians in the movie about Moses. I want to say Charleston Heston was in that. So, in many different ways, you're going to see references to ancient Egypt, but it seems so distant, right? It seems so far back, and on top of that, they were vilified in so many of the historical stories. But the way that the importance of Kemet came to me was as a university instructor teaching history. At this time, this was at University of Tennessee at Knoxville. And when I was in school working on my doctorate, my focus I was more my focus was more North America, but I took many classes on Africa, history classes on Africa, politics, just many different classes related to continental Africa, far more than most people would. And when it was time for me to pursue work, a job became available at a university with an even higher status than my own. That university was the University of Tennessee. So I took that job, and my responsibility was to teach African studies. They showed me some text. I did not care for the text at all. So I decided I was going to create my own lectures. I was going to use their wonderful library and create the presentations and the lectures that I was going to share with the students. I decided I would create that on my own, and that's what I did. Do you know what I found? All roads lead to Egypt. Now, actually, all roads lead to Ethiopia, but what is the window into that world? The window into that world is Egypt. So, this is one of the primary reasons why I follow ancient Egypt. We didn't, our history didn't begin 2,000 years ago, right? Our human history began hundreds of thousands of years ago. And before Narmer united the two lands, before Egypt was established, before Kemet was established, long before that, there was high culture and high civilization for hundreds of thousands of years. The issue with them was that they did not write in stone. Even if they did, it's so far under Lake Nasser and so far under so many constructions and natural changes, dirt and stone, all the way from Ethiopia, all the way here to modern Egypt, which is where I am this very moment. There were so many changes that took place that much of that is hidden. Now, for those of you who are in America, you can go to the Oriental Museum at University of Chicago, and you'll see some of those things that remain that were acquired before the building of the Aswan, the two Aswan dams. But a lot of things are under the dam now. So to be the window into who we are, what do we what did we think? How did we conceive of the world? How did we conceive of our relationship with the Almighty? How did we conceive of our relationship with others? The answer to that is by looking into the world of the ancient Kemetic ancestors. The values that they display, they didn't just come out of nowhere. They didn't just all of a sudden some people in what is today Abydos, or some people in what is today Elephantine, and certainly not some people in what is today Memphis. These they didn't just all of a sudden create this. You can tell by the spells, the use of the their preoccupation with the spoken word. These spells that are the pyramid texts that you see from the Old Kingdom were meant to be spoken. And these spells originate long before Kemet was established. You can argue with me about that in the comments. Maybe you can look at one of my other videos and argue there in the comments where I presented the evidence. But this is one of the primary reasons why I follow ancient Kemet, because I don't believe our history began over the course of the past 2 or 3,000 years. I think that's a ridiculous assertion. Now, what I like about the cosmology of the ancient Kemetic people is the concept of human divinity, the interaction between the Almighty and the people in this realm of existence. And when you delve deeply into that story, you come to learn that it's not just the Sultan, it wasn't just the Pharaoh or the kings who were exalted. It could be anybody. It could be a member of the royal family, a scribe who's worked his way up. It could be a fisherman or a farmer, but they are all essentially practicing the same or similar spiritual technology. Now, how they do that might differ. uh, the spells that they use, the materials that they use, may not be as grandiose as what a wealthy person or a pharaoh would use, but the conceptualization is the same. And they're thinking human divinity. They're thinking human controlling their path into the next realm of existence with spiritual technology and by being consistent with Ma'at. So let's get into Ma'at. And this is one of the reasons I follow Kemet as opposed to following some Catholics or some Jewish religion or some mainstream Christian religion. Ma'at is, we could say, it's together, truth, order, justice, harmony, reciprocity. All of these together is how the ancients conceived of Ma'at. But here's the key about ancient Kemet. Ma'at prevailed. Now, at any moment, you could have your religion of choice. You could be from the area that we call today Thebes, which they called Waset. You could be practicing the cult of Mantu, the God of war. He was the primary deity of the region in the 11th dynasty, which is when there are three Manchu kings, three Manchu hoteps. He's the primary deity. Then you see in the 12th dynasty, moving all the way up to the 18th dynasty, a certain preoccupation with Amen, right? So here they develop a triad, man, woman, child, Amen, Mut, Kansu, and that conceptualization was for originated in a particular reason. Just like in Memphis, you have a different one that was created with Sekhmet and the Almighty Most High Ptah. So they have religious, different religious practices in different areas, all held together by a common value system, and that common value system is called Ma'at. Now, I want to keep this educational and positive, but what I can say, what is the uniting principle that we see throughout the world of Catholicism since the Vatican became influential in the world? What is that uniting principle? What is the uniting principle of Christianity, Protestantism, and such? Look what's going on right now in Gaza, not Giza, Gaza. What is the uniting spiritual principle that is holding that together besides the 6 billion the, dollars that the United States is giving every year and the military support by the British who established that situation in 1947 that we're seeing over there on Gaza? What is their uniting spiritual principle? It's not possible. It's not positive. It doesn't really truly serve to unite humans for good, positive good. The only thing that it does really is to try to maintain the hierarchies that were established over the course of recent hundreds of years. Since essentially since Western colonialism started, and we can say that that started with the Romans. So it's healthy. The Ma'at is healthy. The spiritual beliefs of the Kemetic people were healthy and safe. For example, here is one thing I noticed. Now going on in the Western world is a sex war, a gender war, and this was foreseeable 10, 15 years ago. It was very foreseeable, and it has gotten worse. And because of the internet, um, people have found the other people who share the exact same beliefs or values that they have, and now we just have a lot more warring factions as opposed to more uh, us practicing uniting behavior. But what I liked about the ancient Kemetic people is that they exalted exalted masculine and feminine energy in their everyday life and in their religion, their spirituality, and their cosmology. Just look at Aset, who many of you know as Isis. Is she responsible for the downfall of humanity, like Pandora of the Greeks, or Eve, or Eve of the mainstream Christians? Absolutely not. Uh, so there are other deities in the Kemetic cosmology, like Sekhmet, for example. Not a damsel in distress, but a true fighter for justice, right? And when I say Sekhmet, I'm referring, she's the lion-headed goddess. And in the cosmology, she righted a lot of wrongs, but she didn't do so in a passive way. She did so in a very direct way. So that's the long and short of it. That's why I think Kemetic history and culture is important to all human civilization. Maybe 50 kilometers from where I am, as a place called Nag Hammadi. And the true books, the books that the Vatican prevented from becoming a part of the corpus of knowledge that what eventually became the Holy Bible, those books were excluded. Why? Because they didn't perpetuate sexism. And when, in this case, when I say sexism, I mean particularly the hatred of women. Um, they didn't perpetuate the notion that you had to go through some earthly person like a priest who is certainly not your moral superior. It didn't perpetuate that you had to go through that to get to the Almighty. So when the Romans colonized Christianity, it forced the Christians at that time, the true Christians, to hide their doctrines, to hide their books, to seek refuge in other places, to continuously move further south and south and south, all into Sudan and Ethiopia and other places. As a matter of fact, the Nubian people today are not only in Egypt, they're in Sudan, They're also in Ethiopia. So I would say to everyone, uh, regardless of what your religion is, that shouldn't be used as a divider. For me, myself, even though I would be considered a Christian, I truly believed in the values that were perpetuated by the ancient Kemetic ancestors and the original Christians who originated here in Egypt. So beat it up in the comments. Tell me what you really think about what I had to say. Also, this summer in June, we're gonna be taking a superb tour throughout Egypt. We're gonna be going to Abydos, where the King's List is, right around the corner from where Norma was buried. This is one of the most spiritual places that you will visit on this planet. We're going to be visiting the Giza Plateau, and there's a much more to the Giza Plateau other than the pyramids of Khufu, Khafra, and Menkaura. There, we can see the tomb of Merce Ankh with the um, Medu Neter, the sacred carvings right there on the wall. There's so much to see. We're going to be going to Aswan. We're going to be having a wonderful experience in Aswan. It's not going to be the touristy cookie cutter type experience in Aswan. You're going to be with the Nubian, me and the Nubian scholars in the Nubian village, not Corp Sahel, but different village. It's going to be a much more authentic experience. So jump on board, and I look forward to having you join us for this tour. And thanks for listening.